you drove past road construction or building construction, did you see a cement truck? One of those huge trucks with the big barrel rotating? That's a cement mixer. Cement is the main ingredient in the concrete used in roads, bridges, sidewalks, tunnels, buildings, almost any construction of any kind, I think. The World Economic Forum and other sources say that cement accounts for 8% of carbon emissions. So if we want to tackle the biggest sources of carbon emissions to reduce global warming and save the planet and as quickly as possible, it stands to reason we should be tackling cement, right? So how do we do this? Today we're going to talk with one of the executives at a company that is making environmentally friendly cement. That sounds like an oxymoron to me, but it's not. How are they doing this? Let's find out. Put on your earbuds or turn up the volume, grab a pen, pad and paper to take notes, and let's get started. Welcome to Electric Ladies Podcast. We share stories, insights, tips, and advice from remarkably innovative women working on the front lines of corporate responsibility, energy, sustainability, climate, and ESG-related issues. I'm your host, Joan Michelson. We talk about innovation, leadership, technologies, and careers, always bringing a new perspective. Find us anywhere you'd like to listen to podcasts, on our website, electricladiespodcast.com, and through my Forbes articles as well. And please pass it on to your friends and leave us a 5-star review if you are so inclined. It helps other people find us. And join us on April 22nd of this year in Dallas, Texas for the Earth Day Women's Summit. It's part of the renowned and huge EarthX 2025, and we have an amazing all-star lineup. We're focused on highlighting the unique solutions and perspectives that women bring to this issue. And we also have a hands-on working session on solutions to the climate crisis. We'll also have some bells and whistles, but you can ping me about that and on LinkedIn or go to electricladiespodcast.com and search Summit for details and how to register. I look forward to seeing you there. This episode is brought to you by Competent Boards, a comprehensive training program for board members and aspiring board members. I am faculty there and have the sustainability and ESG designation myself. It gives you the skills, strategic perspective, and confidence, importantly, needed for today's boardrooms, especially around the kinds of issues we talk about on Electric Ladies Podcast. It's great networking, too. You can find out more at competentboards.com. And one more thing before we start, if you are at an inflection point yourself in all of this insanity swirling around us, with your career or your ESG work, please reach out to me. There are a lot of opportunities, even in the chaos, and we don't want you to be flailing. So find me on LinkedIn at Joan Michelson. Let me know you're a listener of Electric Ladies Podcast and what you're wrestling with. We can help you no matter what industry you're in. Construction, between roads, bridges, sidewalks, etc. Construction and buildings are 37% of our carbon emissions, according to the United Nations Environmental Program. That infrastructure is what we need most. We need it to be safe, strong, durable, and very long-lasting. The original construction of the Roman era is still standing in ancient Rome and Greece even, having lasted about 2,000 years and counting. But over time, the cement process was changed to accommodate modern demands, including for faster drying times. And today, well, the cement that's used most of the time is not only a high polluter, it kind of doesn't last as long. But we need the system to change again to reduce its emissions. One of the companies tackling this challenge is called Eco Materials Technologies, which has a few large-scale projects in Texas and Pennsylvania with its sustainable cement. I have a lot of questions like what makes sustainable cement, and I bet you do too. So let's find out more. I'd like you to meet Marci Jenks, Director of Rail Logistics at Eco Materials Technologies. Do you ever think about rail and cement? Marcy has spent nearly all her 30-year career in rail technology, so I bet she's seen quite an evolution. But she spent the early part of her career managing cement transportation, so it looks like she's come full circle, focusing on rail technologies at cement innovator Eco Materials. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Marci Jenks to Electric Ladies Podcast. Welcome, Marci, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be speaking with you today. And it's not lost on me that we're speaking during International Women's Month. So I'm really pleased to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely. So to start us off, like level set, cement has a obviously a high carbon footprint, as I mentioned. So how does eco materials make cement that is eco-friendly, and
Yeah.
how does it compare to traditional cement?
Yeah. So our core business at Eco Material Technologies, we're the leading producer and supplier of sustainable cement alternatives. We have patented technology specifically to convert fly ash and other materials into innovative near zero carbon building materials. They react faster and are approximately 20% stronger in 28 days than traditional cement, all while reducing the carbon emissions, as you said, up to 50%, and not to mention being more cost effective for our customers. As you noted, our products replace traditional Portland cement. Concrete and cement as a sector are bigger than most people think. 30 billion tons a year of concrete are poured around the world. And this is the most man-made material just behind fresh water. There's a massive problem with this. It presents the 8% of global emissions that you mentioned. So if concrete and cement were a country, it'd be the third largest emitting country behind the US and China. So there's a lot of work for us to do and a lot of opportunity for us to disrupt this space with our fly ash built and pozzolan green cement materials.
So how is it different from how traditional cement is made? So I guess you might want to explain how traditional cement is usually made and then kind of what the difference is.
Yeah, I mean, high level, cement is produced at a cement plant, traditional Portland cement, and we're taking prior landfilled byproducts from coal combustion power plants, as well as pozzolan, naturally occurring volcanic ash sources, and building a green cement. So we're completely disrupting the requirement for cement to be produced at a plant and pulling those emissions out of the atmosphere by doing so, all while keeping our product out of utility landfills and extending their use. It's a great recycling story.
So yeah, I'm curious about that part. So so you're taking the like building gets torn down, right? Like I live in Alexandria, Virginia. They just tore down a huge mall around the corner from
Yeah.
me. They're turning it into a hospital and a bunch of other stuff. But you could have in effect taken the rubble, if you will, from that mall and crumbled it up and made eco-conscious cement from that.
So, in part, our core business, though, is really harvesting and collecting the byproduct from coal combustion plants historically. And that is what is called fly ash. That was the kind of tier one of the marketing of the coal combustion products. So we grab that byproduct that the utilities used to put into huge landfills and still do in some cases. And we grab that product and introduce it into the supplementary cementitious materials world, really. And so we can get that material out into this concrete and cement as a Portland cement replacement. Right now, we're at about 15% Portland cement replacement. We are pushing for 20 and even 30, up to hopefully 100% one day with our technologies that are still in development. So it's taking a byproduct that used to go to landfills and keeping it out of those utility landfills and recycling it into a longer lasting and less water permeable product.
So it's less water permeable too, huh?
Yep.
Interesting. Um, what I understand from the way that cement is made is it's a lot of the carbon emissions comes from the fact that it has to be heated, the rubble that is the rock that is smushed up, it crushed, has to be heated at extremely high heat in order to crush it, right? Into tiny particles that ultimately become cement. So is eco materials reducing the emissions from that heating process too, or is that kind of still there and why it's it's not, it's only near zero carbon emissions and not
Right.
zero.
Right. Well, since we're taking a byproduct, and every ton of this byproduct that can be used as a replacement for Portland cement, we're offsetting that production plant, the cement plant, from having to produce that ton of Portland cement. So it's really just replacing and disrupting that requirement for those emissions to ever even be generated by using our recycled product.
Oh, that's interesting. So what you're taking from the coal, the fly ash that you're taking from the coal combustion plants, um, are already crushed in effect. You don't have to heat
Correct.
them to crush.
Correct.
Ah,
It's the byproduct. It is ready to go out the door. Historically, that was our first leg of our approach to marketing this material. We've been in this industry. We're the largest marketer in North America. We've been in this industry for over 50 years. Our 80+% of our customers are Department of Transportation jobs. You were talking about infrastructure and roads, bridges, all of that. Those are our customers in the ready mix market. So, we take this byproduct that makes a longer lasting, doubles the life of a project. A lot of states are actually requiring fly ash be included in the blends and other cementitious materials, supplementary cementitious materials that we provide. So it'll double the life of that project, which I think as taxpayers and people driving down the road every day, we want. We do not want that disruption, and we don't want to keep paying for those things over and over. So it's
well,
great.
how does it fare in weather? I mean, we're talking while you're in Montana. I live in DC. You're based in Salt Lake. I mean, these are places with serious weather, and of course, we have hurricanes and tornadoes, unfortunately, destroying people's lives and wildfires. How does this cement fare? I mean, you've only been using it a short time, so I guess you haven't seen a full cycle, but I mean, how does it fare in terms of the extreme weather events?
Yeah, I mean, it's well time tested. We 50 plus years, 200 plus years, this material
Oh,
has been being used in place of cement, but as our core business, 50 or so years with the various divisions. And I would say, yeah, I mean, it fares better than a straight Portland cement product, longer lasting, and like I said, less water permeable, all while being more cost effective, and saving, towards the sustainability angle, disrupting those emissions from being created. Another component of this with our rail aspect, right now we market 10 million tons of this fly ash and other supplementary cementitious materials, our grain cement products. So currently we're at about 10 million tons of marketable annually. We're growing in the next 5 years with every intent to double those volumes. So we're able to distribute this material with our vast rail network, and with our 4,000 rail car fleet that we maintain, ship on every Class 1 railroad, many of our short line partner railroads, to get this material out to our customers across the network. 45 of the 50 states we're in currently. So transportation is 27% of emissions. So just another great tidbit related to sustainability and environmental impacts. Transportation as a whole is 27% of emissions generated. Anytime we can disrupt, truck is the dirtiest of those. So anytime we can disrupt those truck shipments with rail, which is much more sustainable and environmentally friendly, it's a value add. So we're on pace to do over 30,000 rail carloads of freight this year of bulk cementitious materials, supplementary cementitious materials, which will disrupt about 140,000 truckloads in 1 year, in 2025 alone, that will be able to keep those emissions from those truckloads out of the environment. So another great angle to what we're doing.
so I guess what I'm getting at is, have buildings or roads or bridges that use this innovative cement um, fare differently in hurricanes or tornadoes than those made with traditional cement? Do you have any
They are,
data
yeah, they're
on that?
stronger. It's a stronger end product. I want to honor you with the exact answer, so I can get you some additional detail around that. But it is it is a stronger, longer lasting product in the end than a straight Portland cement.
Yeah, I heard you say that. So it would be interesting to find out if it's, the buildings, made in Asheville, North Carolina or wherever, that
Yeah.
stood did better. Speaking of buildings standing tall, we all watched the Champlain Towers in Florida collapse without warning, unfortunately taking lives with it. And that building was made with normally made cement that everybody seems to have, and concrete that everybody seems to have confidence in. But so how can people trust that cement made in this novel way? You say it's stood 200 years of this material being used, but people are skeptical and they're learning about anything that's labeled eco-friendly. Sometimes people go, yeah, well, maybe it's not as strong or maybe it's not as durable. So how does eco materials ensure that its green cement has the same strength and durability that everybody's accustomed to?
Yeah. So what I'll say to that kind of big picture, and you did touch on this actually, the Romans have been using these same supplementary cementitious materials, volcanic cement, and eco as well. We're using those proprietary blends to build just as time worthy products and buildings. So 2,000 years, I think the Pantheon and the Colosseum have been standing. So I think that kind of speaks for itself that they are very time tested, and our proprietary products are we're 100% confident in their strength and in their durability.
I bet it's hard to break into a market that is so when the established way of doing things is so intricately integrated into the current system and the codes and all of that. What has that been like?
Surprisingly, we have very strong demand. Our customers see the value add of our products, and have for decades. And what's really exciting about our growth is we're taking material. We talked about the fly ash coming from historically coming from the coal combustion power plants. What we're doing now with some of the closed and utilities power plants, specifically along the northeast and southeast part of the country, those first utilities that opened, they're closing or have closed, and we're partnering with those utilities to open up their power plant landfills, and we're harvesting that decades worth, I think 2 billion tons of available, perfectly marketable material in those landfills. So, what we're doing to increase our supply to meet our demand, because our customers have such strong buy-in of the value add of our material. That's really where our growth is coming from in the next 5 years and beyond.
Were your customers getting money from the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure bill?
I imagine, yeah. I mean, not to speak for them, but I imagine there were quite a few people in the construction sector
Yeah, I'd be curious how that's going. So they haven't said to you, they haven't asked for your input on these grants and stuff, then I guess you would know.
Not, yeah, not me specifically. I'm sure there's some conversations that have been had, but yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out. I saw on the website that you've got projects in Texas and Pennsylvania. I mentioned earlier in the introduction. Tell us about those projects.
So we have, we have quite a few. So Texas is really one of our largest markets in all of North America. So a big project we have there is we have a green cement production plant in Texas that we're actively working on. We're working on another one up in Oregon, marketing that material. The Texas material is going out the door to customers now. We have another one opening up in Oregon shortly. In Pennsylvania, that's part of our harvesting project that I was talking about. We have another in Georgia. So, like I said, we're in 45 states and growing, and ship this material. Some of our rail lanes specifically, we're shipping 2,500 miles one way. So we have a very vast rail network that helps us get this material kind of in a sustainable environmental way out to our markets.
So, but tell me about the projects. I mean, what are you what is the cement being used to build is, I guess, what I'm getting at.
So yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. 85, 90% of our business is that DOT work. So it's going to be roads, housing, any cement application for a concrete pour. Our products would be considered for that design mix.
So you said 85% of your projects are DOT. Does DOT do housing? You mentioned housing, but I guess that's a different.
Yeah, well, road base infrastructure, and then the other percentage would be our ready mix customers doing housing and more of the general population uses.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cars and trucks are heavier than ever these days, especially with EVs. I mean, they're even redoing crash tests to accommodate these changes. So how does this green cement perform with the new heavier vehicles being driven on roads and bridges today?
Yeah, it perfectly acceptable levels. I don't know that there's any issues with load bearing. We're stronger than the historical 100% Portland cement. So I think that there speaks for itself, that there's no concerns.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the DOT a minute ago. Has Eco Materials had to make any changes in its green cement in order to be validated by the DOT or any of the state DOTs? Did they say, well, we'll validate it if XYZ?
Yeah, we're always working with the Department of Transportation for state approval. We do get state by state approval for our products. And I guarantee there has been feedback that has been heeded and adhered to for moving forward. But yeah, that's something that we're always working on and very aware of, that we do need the state approval for the DOT projects.
Well, I'd be curious to see in the current political cultural environment if any of those changes in certain states or the US DOT overall. Sean Duffy takes a swipe at that. Anything with the words eco in it might be a flag for them. One of the things that most people don't know about me is that I was a marketing executive with the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transit Authority, rolling out new rail lines in LA County. I would tour rail lines under construction and among other parts of my portfolio. So I'm kind of a transportation junkie, but I'm curious, you're director of rail logistics, and you've mentioned rail a few times and transporting it, but tell us about I mean, I can understand the green cement part, and obviously some cement is used in rail lines, rail construction, but tell us about like what your job is. Are you selling the green cement to rail construction? Or you mentioned transporting it. So how does rail logistics fit into this?
Yeah, so to be able to grow our business with our trajectory of that 10 million additional marketable tons in the next 5 years, up to 20 million, we're shippers of on the railroad. So we partner very closely with our railroads, all 6 class 1 railroads, as well as the short line railroads, in order to get our material out to the markets. And again, it's a great story to be able to ship this material by rail because it's disrupting those truck emissions. So it's that's really where the rail infrastructure comes in. Shipping 2,500 miles sometimes one way, and we can do that sustainably in rail where we wouldn't be able to by truck.
Do you account for the emissions from the train in your carbon footprint?
We do. Yeah, we do. That's definitely factored.
Cool. Fascinating. So I want to ask you one more question and then get some career advice from you for women. But I mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act a minute ago, but do you know what portion of the revenue, I would imagine for a company like this, that a significant portion might come from federal or state grants and contracts, and in fact, that might have been supported by the Inflation Reduction Act or the Infrastructure Act, or in general might be affected by any of the cuts and things going on. Now, I live down the street from the White House, so to speak. I'm in Alexandria, Virginia, in the DC area. So I bet the people down the street from me are slashing and burning the DOT a bit too. Do you know how much of the revenue, if any, is at risk of these any of these projects that you've been working on? Because these things take a long time. I mean, these are, budgeted years out, and they're funded years out, and they're funded in stages. So what kind of risk are those projects at?
I haven't heard that we anticipate
Oh,
any risk around these projects. Yeah, we're full speed ahead. We have the support of the states that all the states that we're working in. And they, like I said, a lot of these states actually require our product for these blend designs because they see the value these materials bring, these supplementary cementitious materials that we offer. So yeah, they want it in their projects and in their states.
cool. So you're not getting pushback that you know of on the eco materials part so far?
Not that I've heard. We'll knock on
Yay.
wood, but till our phones start
Yeah.
ringing, we're going to keep doing what we
Le-
do and providing this value to the industry.
Oh, that's great. Good to hear it. So before I let you get back to your life, I like to give some career advice for mid-career women. So if you could think about a woman who has maybe at least 10, maybe 15 years of experience, she maybe has an education, knows what she's good at. She wants to excel, she wants to make money, but she also wants to make a difference and doesn't feel like there should be a trade-off. So what advice would you give to her?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. I think, with my background, I've kind of come up organically, and in maybe a not linear fashion in some people's opinion, but really kind of found my niche and inserted myself into it and stayed open to opportunities and asked a lot of questions, aligned myself with the best in the business to learn and grow from them. So that's my advice is if you're interested and you want to learn and grow in this industry, construction, logistics, and with a sustainability and environmental focus, there is a world of opportunity. I think we need to continue to advocate for ourselves as women and for the women adjacent to us. I think the most recent statistic I heard is of all of the people in the construction and logistics industry, 5% are women. So there is a lot of opportunity for us to continue to have our voices be heard, get a seat at the table, and I think our conversations and our voices are critical. The unique insights that we bring to our perspectives and our kind of innate leadership and problem solving skills are key to this environmental and sustainability conversation in this industry and business. So yeah, the more the merrier is my opinion, and just keep pushing down doors and get in the conversation, get in the mix.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and that's why your point about, bring unique perspectives and problem solving skills is exactly why I'm doing the Earth Day Women's Summit, because we women do bring a different perspective and collaborate differently and um, connect different dots and connect dots differently, right? And we advocate for our communities differently too, right? We don't just look at the bottom line of a project. We look at a variety of factors. But I didn't realize that only 5% of the transportation and logistics industry is women. That's frightening.
That is a statistic I heard recently. Yeah, it is. And
Wow. Is it like,
sadly we see it, when we're attending these logistics conferences. We're definitely underrepresented, and I'd like to change that. So
wow. Well, bring
join
some of
us.
your colleagues to the Earth Day Women's Summit. You've got projects in Texas, so maybe it's nearby. What about construction and the construction industry? Do you know what the percentage is there?
I'll dare guess it's similar. It might be a little bit
Yeah.
higher, but yeah,
Yeah.
and we do see it shifting. I think two or three of the presidents and CEOs of the Class One railroads on the logistics side are being led by women right now. So things are shifting. It's an exciting time. It's been a very interesting, especially the last 5 years have been a very interesting time to be in supply chain and logistics. between the pandemic and these other disruptions that we're talking about now. So there's never a dull moment. 35 years in, I'm still learning something new every day. So if that sounds exciting to you, yeah, jump in. The water's fine.
Good for you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I love women who are breaking into male dominated industries. But you're right, especially the last 5 to 7 years. I mean, between the pandemic and supply chain issues and climate change and the investments from the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Bill, and the CHIPS and Science Act, and then swinging the other way with the new country's leadership. I can see how it might be a little tricky to brace yourself from whiplash a little bit. But the reality is this is all infrastructure. I mean, we all need it, right? I don't care whether you live in so-called red state or blue state or whatever your persuasion. We all need roads. We all need bridges. We all drive on them. We all, a hurricane doesn't ask you what party you're in before it smashes your house, right? So it's climate change is bipartisan, transportation is, or nonpartisan, transportation and logistics as well, and construction. So thank you so much. Any final thoughts, Marcy, before I let you get back to your life?
Yes, for sure. I would say anybody that's interested, any of your listeners that are interested in learning more about eco-material, we've got ecomaterial.com as our website. Go check it out. A lot of new information being added consistently. And also our CEO, Grant Quasha, is very active on LinkedIn, on the socials. So Grant, Grant, Quasha, Quasha at LinkedIn. Follow him. He's posting new and exciting things in this sector around logistics, construction, sustainability, and our role in it almost daily. So really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you today.
Oh, well, great. And thank you for breaking down the doors that you've been breaking down in that male dominated industry. Let's hope that you can get more than 5% of women in this industry pretty quickly, right? My goodness.
Here, here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for joining us today on Electric Ladies Podcast, Marci Jenks of Eco Materials Technologies. Appreciate it. So, do you want your house or the roads that you drive on to be made from green cement? Why not, right? Post it to us on Twitter and Threads at Joan Michelson. Send us any questions there as well. You may win a complimentary 30-minute coaching session with me. I've met some wonderful people that way. And please subscribe to our mailing list to stay abreast of our amazing guests like Marcy, our articles and career advice. And you can subscribe on our website, electricladiespodcast.com. And if you come to our summit, by the way, come find me and tell me that you are a listener. I'm Joan Michelson. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.